7 o'clock. Good evening, Vicksburg. Welcome to tonight's November 1st council meeting regular session. I'll call to order tonight. We have first on the agenda the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Well, we've lost some dear people out of the community in the last few weeks. So just we'll take a moment of silence for Officer Eric West, Mr. Bill Bromley, and Eric Crawford. Mr. Mallory, would you take a roll call, please?
Roll call for Village of Vicksburg Council meeting November 1st, 2021. Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Here.
Trustee Merrill.
Here.
Trustee Holmes.
Here.
Trustee Wagner.
Here.
President Pro Tem Keller.
Here.
President Frisbee.
Here. Thank you. We have an agenda in front of us for tonight's meeting. Does anyone have any corrections, comments? Mr. Mallory, I'll have a change. I would like to, on 10A, I would like to interject a new 10A and put on there a candidate recommendation for the Planning Commission and DDA and move the closed section to 10B. Hearing no other corrections, entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Trustee Keller moved as corrected.
Trustee Wagner, I'll support.
And a motion by Trustee Keller and support by Trustee Wagner. We have no scheduled appearances tonight.
If we
We'll take a vote.
can do that by
We
a
can
voice
do
vote.
a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We have an agenda in front of us. We have no scheduled appearances, no public officials tonight. At this time, we'll take citizens' comments for agenda items and non-agenda items. I ask that citizens stand up and state their full name and home address and limit their comments to 4 minutes, please. If you care to, thank you.
My name is Rebecca Walters. I live at 420 South Kalamazoo Avenue. I've got two things I'd like to address. First, I'd like to address Denny Olson on the South County Fire Board Authority. Half of your duty is to go there and represent Vicksburg. The other half is to come back and report to us on what is going on. And for the past 5 to 6 months, if you go on to our meetings and the agendas, all we are getting is the meeting is on Wednesday, or our Senate representative is in attendance. We need more. We have other counties around us that can put what is going on, that actually have happenings with Vicksburg there, but for some reason, I've asked you a couple of times to give us more and report what is going on at these meetings, and you are failing to uphold the other half of those responsibilities for which you signed up for when you got this position. The second thing I'd like to address is two meetings ago, Jim Mallory mentioned about how we have great financial transparency, that we have probably one of the best financial transparencies out there that we have going on. But yet you are going into closed sessions meetings to spend $80,000 of the citizens' money, and you're not telling us why. The last meeting we had, we also discussed that you would be going ahead and going into a closed meeting to discuss you looking at properties, but that when we came back for this following meeting, or whenever there was a property that was discussed or found that was of interest, it would be brought to the people, what is going on? Well, 10B now is saying you want to go back into a closed session to discuss more about this and to try to enter a purchase agreement for the property to be discussed. Why does spending the $80,000 of the people's money have to be done behind our backs in closed doors. This should be our decision as well, or at least we should be aware of what is going on when it comes to $80,000 of the people's money. And that is all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Walters. Any other citizens like to comment? Thank you very much. We have in front of us a general consent agenda with the minutes from the regular session, October 18, warrant reports totaling $439, $33, $58, an event request, and correspondence from Rebecca Walters' FOIA request.
President Frisbee,
Sir?
I'd like to make some corrections in the minutes. First off, under calling the meeting to order, my first name is spelled with a C, not a K. Not that it's a big deal, but I'm sure my parents would appreciate it. And section 4, Mr. Frisbee's last name is spelled with an I-E, not a double E. And then lastly, I noticed when we came out of closed session to open the session, it has me seconding the motion. We need to check the tape on that and get that corrected, if possible, please, because I chaired the meeting and I'm not able to motion or second. So if we could get that corrected, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Any other comments, questions, corrections? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Trustee Reister, I move that we approve the general consent agenda as presented.
Trustee Reister, motion, is there support?
Trustee Merrill supporting.
Trustee Merrill, support. Mr. Mallory, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Yeah, roll call vote on the approval of the general consent agenda with the notations from President Pro Temp Keller. Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
President Pro Temp Keller.
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. We have approval of the consent agenda. And per my request, we changed 10A. The HR committee met with several candidates for the Planning Commission and the DDA. We've made our recommendation, and I'd like to bring that recommendation to the council tonight. Tanya DeLong, we have chosen to serve in that position, and we look forward to it. Tanya has got a long history with the village, background in the DDA president and vice president in Vicksburg Chamber of Commerce, and she's a vice president, Radiant Church at Portage Campus currently. She's got background in finance, forensic auditing. She's a financial analyst and just an all-around avid supporter of the village, and we really look forward to you participating. And I would like to entertain a motion to appoint. I know I have the approval, the authority to do the appointment, but I'd like to have support of all that are on the council.
President Frisbee, I will make the motion to appoint Tanya DeLong to the Planning Commission DDA.
And President Frisbee, as the council's appointee to the Planning Commission, I'd like to be the one that seconds that motion as well.
I would like to take a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Although opposed? Tanya, thank you very much. Welcome. We look forward to it. Would you like to say anything, or I didn't want to put you on the spot? I know this is all last minute.
You know, I never have anything to say. I would like to thank Jim for talking to me about this when I approached him about it. We've lived here 26 and a half years, and it's the longest I've lived anywhere in my entire life. And Vicksburg is my home, and it's where our son grew up, and it's where we'll live in that old house until they take our cold dead bodies out of there. And I love the village. I love the people in the village, and I want to continue to help it improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. We look forward to it. And I want to thank Gail Reister and Ryan Wagner as part of the HR team that took the times out of their busy weekends to do the interviews and have the discussions. So thank you very much. Again, tonight, we have a recommendation that we enter into another closed session pursuant to MCL 15268D in regard to discuss and approve the village manager and the village president to enter into a purchase agreement discussion. I would entertain a motion.
Trustee Keller, so moved.
Motion by Keller,
Trustee Wagner will support.
supported by Keller. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same. All right, we will return.
Mr. Frisbee, entering into closed session will require a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Take 2/3 majority.
Very good, sir. Thank you very much.
Also, under that, I'd like, as the council's aware, the closed session is allowed under Michigan Legislative Act that you cited for the purpose of negotiations involving real estate. If there is action by the council that will occur when the council returns from that closed session, either at this meeting or a future meeting, but any final decision and discussion will take place in the open body under the Opens Meeting Act. So roll call vote.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
President Pro Temp Keller.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. We'll adjourn. I thank you all for your patience. Entertain a motion to go into open session at this time.
Trustee Keller, so moved.
Trustee Wagner will support.
Moved by Keller, support by Wagner. All those in favor, say aye. Roll
Aye.
call, roll call, excuse me.
Oh, okay.
We must do this by vote, if you would, our voice.
Sure. Roll call with, I think the motion was President Pro Temp Keller, seconded by Wagner.
Wagner.
Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Merrill, did I call on you? And President Frisbee.
Yes.
Motion to move back into open session. Passes.
We're back into open session. Mr. Mallory, I'd ask if you would just elaborate a little bit on 10B, please, for the attendance.
Yes, there's village staff, as in many cases, and specifically when we're dealing with development in industrial areas, has contact with developers on quite a regular basis, and it's a positive thing for the village of Vicksburg. Quite a good number of growth in using economic tools. In the past, some highlights of that is with the Cole Crum automotive dealership that had been abandoned for a few years. We used economic incentives and tools that now has an event center as well as Michelle's Restaurant, as well as the development in our industrial park on the west side of town. Most recently with miniature custom manufacturing and EMO expanding, which should bring close to 200 jobs over the next 5 years and about 70,000 square feet of industrial space. The reality is in our industrial park, we have one lot left to expand. And we certainly would entertain any developer looking at that opportunity. When you look at, and to bring into the council and public's a reminder, when we present the budget, we always cite the plans of the village. And those could be Parks and Rec, the DDA plan, most importantly is the master plan. The master plan for the village of Vicksburg was updated in 2015, had incredible participation by citizens. It's a document that is and has been on our website since at least fall of 2016 when I started. That's our guide as a staff, as well as the council setting policy and expectations for staff to carry out the day-to-day operations. Within that master plan is an emphasis, in fact, I think it's goal 3, on the industrial development and expansion within the village of Vicksburg. That's always been a motivating factor in miniature custom manufacturing's expansion and PA 198 credits, as well as EMO. We used, trying to think, a commercial rehab district on the hospital for Turning Leaf, as well as for the developers of the Cole Crum building. And again, it's very fortunate. There's probably not a month that goes by that I'm not contacted, that I am contacted by potential businesses and developers in the village of Vicksburg. And there's multiple of those type of conversations going on as we speak. I predict a couple of them will come up through site plan review and the planning commission here in the next 3 or 4 months. I accept from the council, it can be frustrating, as the 7 of you are aware, that when these talks started, not everyone on the council was fully apprised at those talks. We didn't know where they were going to go. And as that journey has gone on, we have followed the legislative law perfectly. You're allowed to go into closed session to update council on real estate, discuss those negotiations. We have reached a point on between 9 and 10 acres of property within the village of Vicksburg, zoned industrial, connected to a piece of property that the village already owns that will give us access and somewhere in the future to develop an industrial type corridor. That letter of intent to purchase is for $77,000. It is staff's belief that the data will show it provides an incredible opportunity for this village, both in growth and to align with our missions to have the least impact, whether it be on taxes or utilities, to our residents. And to do our best in limiting that will require development of an industrial and commercial corridor. We don't need to get too long-winded, but I think it's important as part of our motivating factor. This staff inherited just reality and aging infrastructure system in which the village received a $1 million grant, and the results of that grant were we have $31 million of critical needs to our infrastructure. So there's many things that overlap and join to ensure we can deliver the services to our community and visitors. And I think that the results of the past 5 years truly speak for themselves. The investment made on infrastructure, not only water and sewer, but roads, sidewalk, development of businesses in our industrial park, repurposing buildings that have been vacant for multiple years, including the hot dog stand on the east entryway on Richardson, redevelopment of the property across the street, among other things, would demonstrate to the overwhelming majority of the public the direction the village is going. I remind the council, it's a point that I'm probably most proud of in my tenure at the village of Vicksburg. We're the only municipality that self-lowered our taxes for our citizens. First time in this village's history, first time anyone can recall in Southwest Michigan, and argumentatively the first time in over 30 years in the entire state of Michigan that a municipality would do that. So specific to 10B, we've entered a letter of intent to purchase between 9 and 10 acres of industrial land. It connects to property we already own that we can develop anytime in the future. And that future is truly anytime in the future. We will start to work different ideas. There's nothing that's going to happen next month or in the next 6 months that I'm aware of. But for the price that was offered at $77,000, I think it's an incredible investment opportunity for the village. I think once we get into the audit results from the 2020-2021 fiscal year, we got the draft report. Now that presentation will be made publicly in January. The financial position, it'll be a cash deal. We have cash. It'll be general fund money utilized. Any investment in the future return would repay that investment in the 101 fund. So I'll pause there, answer any specific questions, but I think when you take everything into account, the direction of the village and what we're accomplishing, this is an incredible opportunity that staff fully recommends, and we're asking for a motion and support and majority to approve the village manager and village president to sign a purchase agreement, which then becomes binding. We'll have some immediate cost beyond that, getting an appropriate survey done and the like, but that will all come in front of the council after the purchase agreement is signed.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any comments or some discussion trustees would like to bring to the table? Trustee Olson?
Yes, sir. First of all, I have to tell everyone I hate closed meetings. Man, I hate them more than anything. But it's a necessary evil in our system. And the decisions that are going to be made are good for this village. I would not be on this council If I didn't believe in the village, I didn't believe in the people of the village. If I didn't believe in our public safety, I fight for everything. And I've been coming to council meetings for over 5 years. And we stood up and fought for Tracy McMillan. We fought for this village. We fought for honesty and transparency in this village. So having that said, yes, I hate closed meetings. But in this case, I have to agree that this is a good thing. This is something that will be good for Vicksburg, and I would not support it in any way, shape, or form if I didn't believe that. So.
It was hard for you.
Thank you. But,
Trustee Holmes?
Jim, is there anything in the master plan that this addresses? And can you explain what the master plan is, just briefly, if you wouldn't mind?
Master plan is a formal government document that municipalities should be at minimum reviewing every 5 years and probably progressively in the 7 to 10 year mark have comprehensive updates due to changes. And what that process is a collection of citizens' input on what they desire in a ranked order for a village to accomplish. In fact, I think it might go to put our new planning commission member on the spot. I think Tanya was probably part of the DDA board in that when that whole process took place. I think President Pro Tem Keller was on the planning commission then, and President Frisbee. And not to get too much ahead of ourselves, it is already incorporated in the 22-23 fiscal year to have a comprehensive update on our master plan. But it's what I would call the backbone of government operations. It's the roadmap of goals and expectations and that's why we cite it every budget presentation. I have, it's not my or staff's ideas to come up. We usually always cite where in a master plan this comes from, or a DDA plan specific to our downtown, or a Parks and Rec plan specific to Parks and Recreation. Specific to industrial, like I said, I think the master plan has 7 sections of goals, and I think it's covered in multiple areas of the master plan. Specific, I think it's goal 3 that talks about expanding the industrial area in that. This area is already zoned industrial, and so generations before us, both paid staff and probably by council policy, kind of provided this opportunity that's come in front of us. Because it was previously zoned industrial, and the property that the village owns that will abut to this property was in village hands for many decades.
Okay, thank you. So it's a good use of land is a good way of looking at this.
It fits the land use contained in the master plan, contained in our zoning map.
Right.
Nothing will change.
Just a comment, and the one thing as a lifelong resident I realize in this community that I love, I know Tanya loves, and that is that the close-knitness we are. We're a small-town community, and most of us don't want to change that. And as you've shared some information, we currently are going through an infrastructure change downtown that is repairing some critical infrastructure, sewer and water pipes. Folks, we're only able to raise 1/3 of the funds necessary for, mind you, this was the word, critical infrastructure repairs. We can only get 1/3 of the money for that. So here's the reality. We either start turning cornfields over and putting more houses in them because we need to build the base up in order to spread out the expense of updating the infrastructure, or we need to bring businesses in here. Either that or what we do is we keep limping along and filling in potholes as we go along. So there's got to be a balance here. And my perspective, what I see here, as well as what I've seen in other places, that we're trying to manage that. We're trying to find balance between being Vicksburg, having pride in this little community, but at the same time we realize that we're old. like some of us on this council, and I'll raise my hand to that one. We all have greater needs, including this community, and so that's why I applaud things like this, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to find ways, meaningful ways, we can increase our tax base, we can bring business and industry in, and then hopefully by doing that, we're not changing what makes us special and unique. So I just wanted to share those comments with the council.
Thank you, Trustee Holmes. Trustee Wagner?
Yeah. Jim, do we know approximately how much unutilized industrial land is currently within the village limits?
In excess of 100 acres.
And so, I mean, with this, we're looking to tap into another 10% of that.
Yes.
And it's, is it bordered at all by residential or any other areas that it would be impactful to?
No.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's utilizing land that's not being utilized. It's only 10% of what we have in industrial use, but we need to build up that corridor. We've got to have more industrial occupants to add to that tax base. And it's jobs. It's vitality. So.
Any other comments from trustees or questions from staff? You know, just reaffirming, it's been part of the master plan. It was number 3 out of 7. It is right first and foremost in the plan that all the residents of this village have taken many, many hours out of their life to prepare. I was involved with one in 2010, and then this one progressed into 2015 and was adapted, and this really just fits our master plan. So it's nothing that we're asking special, just a phenomenal opportunity, I believe, for this community. And with that, I would ask what would be the desires of this council. In front of us, there is a motion to approve the village manager and village president to enter into a purchase agreement for the discussed property.
Trustee Wagner, I will make that motion that we move to approve the village manager and village president to enter into a purchase agreement for the discussed property at $77,000.
Trustee Olson, I second that.
Motion by trustee Wagner and seconded by trustee Olson. We'll need to do a voice or a roll call, please, Mr. Mallory.
Okay, here no other comments or questions. Roll call vote. Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller.
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 11, President Frisbee will, staff has recommended a motion be made to open a public hearing to consider the following: an ordinance to adopt and enact a new code of ordinance for the village of Vicksburg to revise and update certain ordinances not included in the ordinance code, define uses not defined in the zoning ordinance, and remove conflicting use standards with the use table, and to provide for a manner of amending the ordinance code. Or simpler stated, this has been a 4-year project to clean up the ordinance within the village of Vicksburg, to have it manageable and usable by a codification.
Entertain a motion to open a public hearing to consider the following.
So moved.
Holmes, second.
Motion made by President Pro Tem Keller, seconded by Trustee Holmes. Roll call vote to move into an open hearing. Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller.
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes.
Open the public hearing. Staff presentation will be conducted by Planning Director Durkee.
Good evening, council.
Good evening, Bob.
I'll do a couple of whys that'll kind of dovetail onto some of the discussion earlier. then a brief synopsis of what this recode is, and that should do it. But first, I want to segue and say congratulations to Tanya. I think that was a great choice. When I first moved to town 9 years ago with all my kids, you know, exploring the town, we stopped at Tanya's shop, and that small town welcome was, you know, I got to experience it, and Tanya's always been a, you know, close friend since then. So congratulations. I look forward to working with you, with the Planning Commission. So that aside, as Jim, you know, the master plan discussion, you know, reminded me of, you know, this recodification is tied into that. It recognizes there's a lot of conflicts with our zoning code and dated ordinances, and we've made some of those changes, but before we went further, we've always wanted to get this done. So you know, it does connect right to the master plan. And similar to Jim talking about developers reaching out to the village, there's a lot of zoning and development and code questions that come in, and they find them online, which they are online, but there's been, I counted 34 updates to the code that's published. So it is, yes, you can find it here as long as it isn't updated there. So what this does, it takes all of the amendments since the last time there was a codification, puts them into it. So the ordinance in front of you guys today is the ordinance actually adopting this. The reason the village has the books now is because in 2019 and into 2020, I did a similar presentation, the background, the years of the staff work, to go on the recodification, which is summarizes, it's the putting all those amendments into the book so you're not kind of looking into separate documents. It gave it a new numbering system and you know, republished the same things. So over the years, you can imagine all these conflicts. And the other major thing it does, I think 1996 was the last full recodification. State laws or statutes that our ordinances are tied to change, or there's bigger overarching changes, and all these different codes talk to each other. So General Code is the company that finds all those and they identify those. So in 2019, 2020 is before we had the books published and get everything to be adopted. You know, the work was presented to the Planning Commission, I think on more than one occasion, and then finally the council to authorize before we took on the fee of publishing the new books that it gets done. So as Jim said, there'd been some delays because of COVID and everything else, and this ordinance would adopt this code, and then after a publishing in the paper, it becomes effective. So there's no more dancing around, and General Code's gonna also update our online website code as well. So it isn't just the book. So to summarize, in Ordinance 297, some of the highlights of it, the language is a little confusing. It'll say new code, but it is mostly a recodification. I say mostly because the one addition done by staff was to define uses in our zoning code. There's probably upwards of 60 to 80 land use definitions, whether it's gas station, house, duplex, and we only had maybe 10 of them defined. So to define these, I used a document called the Planner's Dictionary. It's AICP, they're the group that certifies planners, and they give definitions to all sorts of things. So any definition placed in the ordinance was from that book. So it wasn't even like a staff consideration. It was based off of, you know, other planners and what they had come up with. So that was the one change, was adding a bunch of uses to have a definition, kind of so we're not sitting here circling, arguing with staff. Some other highlights, it made the entire code gender neutral. One of the bigger ordinance changes the village did was to change ordinance violations to municipal civil infractions. So any of the old references to old penalties are gone. Like I said, it did a new numbering system. The legal analysis was performed by General Code, and we worked with the village attorney, and that's where they looked at all the conflicts or references to state statutes that may have changed, and those are updated. Got rid of some of the gaps where if it referenced a code that changed, they highlighted it and removed it and put it in there. And as I said, there's 34 amendments of any sort which are then added to the code. So once the council makes a decision, as I said, there will be a publishing notice which summarizes these changes. And then once that's published, the new ordinance becomes effective. And if there's any questions on any of the work or the background on this, I'm here to answer any questions.
If I can, President Frisbee. I'd like to publicly thank Bobby Durkee for the amount of hours and dedication and most importantly, the commitment to see this through. This was quite an endeavor to take the history of the ordinances of this village and organize them in a manner that is very user-friendly for the future. And as he mentioned, not only the updated books through general code, but him ensuring that the update will take place online as well. So thank you, Bobby.
Yes, I also would like to thank Mr. Durkee for all the yeoman's work you've done. Being a citizen volunteer on the Planning Commission over the years, that was very difficult to understand, you know, the ordinances, the legalities, some of the conflicting information you speak to, and it's been very, very refreshing to have a professional to assist that team, and Tanya and the Planning Commission will, you know, reap the benefits of what you've brought to the table. So thank you for all your time and effort, and you've done a phenomenal job for us. Thank you. Any other questions or comments anyone would like to have for Mr. Durkee?
Yeah, I would, obviously, Director Durkee and I served on the Planning Commission back, I think it was in 2015 or 2016, when we started talking about this recodification process, and I remember breaking down some of it. We each took homework home to try to go through stuff, and yeah, so if anybody wants to know what ordinances, they're highly confusing. So I understand the work you did was tremendous, and I appreciate you getting us to the finish line, so thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bobby, I'm thankful the village sent me to school when I was elected to this position, because I learned the difference between laws and ordinances. And if I remember correctly, the state has laws. We have ordinances. They're basically what we run, what we abide by, what the rules are in order for us to do things. Is that kind of a good way of looking at it?
I would default that to the village attorney.
Okay. Well, he's not here, so
I know that all of our, you know, all local authority comes from the state, so that sounds accurate.
Okay. I say that because the question that I have is this, and that is through the codification. I understand that we're looking at over time, you know, pieces are moved, and you have some information in here. I actually have the ordinance book at home, and I went through it and was equally as confused when I stopped as when I began. And so I guess really the question I've got is this, and that is, for all the effort that you and the others have done to do this, have there been any new ordinances, such as you can't wear the color blue? I'm just an example. You can't wear the color blue. So, or are we really talking about here that what we're looking at is just cleaning up the existing ordinances to make sure that they're current, there's no duplication, and that they follow a very systematic process so that we can understand them better?
It's yes to both. Any change through the ordinance amendments, like example at the top of my head is, if you go in the zoning code, there's a section for site plan review. The zoning code in the other book that's at the office isn't the current one. You would have to have the printed ordinance, which is the new laws posted on the website, and reference that one. And then, so that is a law that changed, but any amendment that was put in was changed through the legislative process. So if there was something that said you have to wear a blue shirt to give this presentation, it would have already happened because it was already completed by this body. The only addition was, the only change was adding the definitions to the zoning ordinance of uses that were not in there. There was no new uses added. It was just uses. The definition section of the code, like I said, we had 70 or 80 definitions, but only 10 or 12 uses defined. So if someone calls the village and says, I want to put in a car wash, is a good example. It could be, oh, well, that isn't, you know, describe the use. And then I could go, well, that sounds like a service station to me. And then without the definition, you were kind of flying blind where the definition defines it. So that is the only change. And then to your part about adding or getting rid of the conflicts or the dead ends in the code, if you will, that's all handled through this print up. You know, so if it said, see the site plan review ordinance, and it was the old section number, it would then direct you to what is going to be the new section number or the current standard.
I think one thing too, Rick, and it's nice having someone like Bobby, and we work together in the city of Kalamazoo, and his passion for this topic area and advanced degrees on GIS. But one thing that's also nice is what will be on the website is word searchable. So one of our citizens, a developer, can plug in a word and it will show you in the ordinance everywhere that is covered. So
I kind of describe it, it's kind of tuning up under the hood. It affects everything, but most of us don't deal with it until it affects us personally. So, but it's also the kind of the middle ground for everything.
The reason I went the law and the ordinance was my point was I was trying to make, and I totally lost even myself when I was making it, was simply that these aren't, Bobby Durkee's not making up any new ordinances here. That was the key point. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bobby.
A lot of clarification took place. Now, some of you may not have been on the council at the time, and the others have seen it. Bobby's been in front of this body several times with conflicting information of ordinances, and that's a lot of it. You would have one ordinance that was written, another one written 10 years later, and they had to write material to it, and they said the same thing, basically. So it was just a lot of time, a lot of tedious legwork, and something it was been needed for a long time.
Bobby, I want to thank you. It's going to be a wonderful resource when it's put into place, if it gets approved.
I think to make mention of it is Andrew Horn, given the legal guidance and oversight through this whole path. So I really appreciate Andrew's. He's behind the scenes and might not attend the meeting in person, but he certainly is called upon multiple times a week by myself. So shout out to Andrew.
Thank you for that clarification, Jim. You're absolutely right. He's been a valuable asset, as Bobby Durkee and the rest of this team, to this community. We have public comments. We'll take this time now to listen to any comments by the public, same as it is for the open agenda. The citizens, please state their name and home address and limit their comments to 4 minutes.
A couple points as well. We did not receive any written inquiries. However, we had 2 citizens come in to Village Hall and review this with staff. So we did have those 2 citizens come in. They did not make written or verbal comments in response to that review. And that in this public hearing, the public comments are limited to the subject at hand of the public hearing.
Very good. Ms. Tanya?
I'm Tanya DeLong, 220 South Michigan Avenue.
Can you come up, because we're live on YouTube? And
Tanya DeLong, 220 South Michigan Avenue. When you guys started, Carl and Bobby, started working on the codes, that was when, for people that don't know, this page said this page said this page said this. It was all different dates. There was no computer page to look at to find anything. And a page superseded a page superseded a page. And it was a nightmare. And I just want to thank Bobby and Carl and Andrew, because it's going to make things so much easier for the Planning Commission. And the being able to actually do something about blighted buildings now will be possible with the new code. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca Walters, 420 South Kalamazoo Ave. I believe you just mentioned that there was 34 amendments to it. What are those 34 amendments? If you guys are getting ready to approve or deny something, have you guys read these? Have you looked at them? Are you just taking word? What's being changed? How can we vote when we don't know what's all being amended?
Okay, so we have a recommendation in front of us to approve the ordinance 297.
Point of order. I move to close public hearing.
I should, thank you, sir.
Is there support?
Motion and support to close the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Here, no other questions or comments. Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Merrill,
Yes.
trustee Reister,
Yes.
trustee Olson,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. We have in front of us a request by staff to approve the ordinance number 297 to adopt and enact a new code of ordinances of the village of Vicksburg. What is-
If I can, under staff, staff is certainly recommending this. We have used a couple times new, but remember, this is getting the ordinance book that existed updated to the point that it makes the best sense it can and is a searchable document. All of the issues have been in front of a governmental body at one time or another, have been made public. The resources have been available to the public for input. It was public noticed through MLive, as well as the information provided on staff recommendations from the village attorney and director of planning. And the council has been a part of that journey for the past 4 years and informed every step of the way.
I entertain a motion of the
President Pro Tem Keller, I would happily like to move to approve the approval of ordinance 297 that would adopt and enact a new code of ordinances for the village of Vicksburg to revise and update certain ordinances provisions, to repeal certain ordinances not included in the ordinance code, and provide for the full manner of amending the ordinance code.
Trustee Wagner will support.
motion by trustee Keller, seconded by trustee Wagner. We'll do a roll call.
Here, no other questions or comments. Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
trustee Reister,
Yes.
trustee Holmes,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries, and thank you, Bobby, for all your hard work on that and the continuing updates we've gotten from you. We appreciate it. We have council action in front of us to purchase some new equipment for the golf course. Jim, speak to that if you would.
Yeah, Angels Crossing Golf Club has been in need of updated maintenance equipment since August 2016 when I began as the village manager for Vicksburg. In recent years, we have purchased some updated equipment. They've been of the used variety, updated used fairway and used green mowers, as well as outsourced some maintenance activities due to not having needed equipment on site, specifically rolling and aerating greens and fairways. We've made substantial improvements to the condition of the golf course the past 2 years, and there are multiple pieces of equipment that need immediate upgrade and replacement. They are as follows: Toro Green Masters that are original from 2004, 2 of the units. They have over 6,800 hours on them. As well as the Sand Pro with 6,700 hours. Most of this equipment dates back to when the golf course opened in 2004. A leaf blower, but one that, and we've provided the council with descriptions and pictures of each of the equipment. A Reel Master, again, the Reel Master 3550. Green rollers that will continue to improve the green smoothness and speed. They also have the spiking attachments to vent the greens that are necessary. Turf Science brushes, moisture meters, and a towable drop spreader. The total of the equipment that's listed out to purchase will not exceed $171,500. It will be purchased with golf course revenue and funds. No tax dollars will be used for this needed equipment. We have listed equipment that I anticipate in the next 3 to 6 months bringing in front of the council as well. An additional 4-wheel drive tractor, 2 all-purpose utility carts, and a hydraulic all-purpose workman wagon. On round numbers, again, it was an area that we examined. The golf course took a couple years to determine a strategy to maximize that investment that the village made. In 2018, we brought in Renaissance Golf to oversee the management of the golf course. The conditions of the course have certainly improved, as well as the profitability of the golf course. Currently, the golf course has around $550,000 as of last week in cash on hand. On round numbers, our last full month was September 30th, so we actually had more cash on hand because as we've reached October, the play versus expenses will go down a little bit. But using September 30th, which is a consistent number, so September 30th of 2021, we had $659,000 on hand. In 2020, that same date, September 30th, we had $426,000. So as you can see, we've added about $233,000 to our balance. I know $171,500 is a large number, but it is an investment, not an expense to needed equipment. Our equipment maintenance to upkeep, again, that type of equipment is really metered in hours, not years. So even though the 17 years is quite a long time to be operating a mower that operates every day, to ensure the profitability of that course, the hours would about double that. And again, it goes back to the size of our golf course. The size of our greens are twice the size of normal greens, as well as the amount of acres that we're mowing. So I wanted to give the council and community the assurance again that this entire amount of money is from golf course revenue, involves no other revenue stream of the village, and is a needed investment to make. Back in 2018, September 30th of 2018, basically a few months after Renaissance took place, we had $238,000 cash on hand on September 30th. 2019, it moved up to $264,000. 2020, significant jump up to $426,000, and then this year $659,000. So we can see a track. We need to make a reinvestment into this needed equipment, and staff is recommending council approval. Once the final prices are established, we'll come back and advise the council. But for these needed pieces of equipment, it will not exceed $171,500. The other that will come in front of the council in the future are all subject to state minimum bids that we've sent out, and we're waiting to receive those. But I'll be happy to answer any questions about the golf course.
I do have a question about this. Just wondering, is this used equipment or new equipment?
No, this is all brand new equipment that all comes with a minimum of 2-year warranties on it, and some have 3-year warranties, but it's brand new equipment from the manufacturer.
Great, thank you.
Jim, the old equipment that's going to be retired or whatever, is that going to be sold off then, or
a determination is going to be made how much it's worth, what could still be used. There's discussion reference some of the older green mowers possibly becoming T-box mowers, but an evaluation is going to be done to determine if what investment into those machines would be worth it or not. Some will be sold, and I imagine some will be scrapped for that money as well.
Where I was going with that is that the money we might be able to obtain from that would go back into
Yeah,
the
but I
golf
would,
fund.
I don't want to miss or have the impression, I wouldn't even envision a few $1,000s for the totality of it all.
Yes, sir.
Jim, we know as you mentioned, this money is coming from the golf course, which is the Golf Course Enterprise Fund. And we also, you've shared with us that one of the unique things about that fund is that unlike all the other ones run at the same fiscal year as the village. Where this one, in our fiscal year, is July 1 to June 30th. Well, people are still playing golf, in between those, into the fiscal year, so we have to deal with that when we're looking at the dollars and cents of running that business. The one thing, though, in looking at that, I was just curious, one of the things that the village does very well, and you've done really well, is we have forecasts for capital. We budget for it, and so we're always making sure that, we're saving our money for those investments that we need. And to your point, 171,500 is a lot of money, even though we still have, 500,000 in available funds. I'm just curious, in the future, moving forward, are you going to make golf course investment equipment as part of the budgetary process, do you think? Or is this something that we're just going to buy as we need it moving forward?
Yes, it will become part of the capitalization. Unfortunately, like I said, the majority of this equipment was original equipment from 2004. So it'll be much like we do, let's say, with DPW or the police equipment, where each January we assign money to specific future needs we know are going to occur, whether those are pickup trucks, backhoes, police cruisers. All of those equipment are listed out, and that's where we discuss having a fully funded 3 or 5 year capital plan, and even moving this village to where we have a fully funded 10-year plan. So much like that will happen on the golf course. We can then schedule out with new equipment an anticipated date that equipment will need to be replaced, as well as have the opportunity to ensure that the proper maintenance is done to the equipment.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Jim, with that, how many years might you think that we're away from getting a total overturn on our equipment that we can get into that type of cycle?
I think the industry standard is more in the 10 to maximum 15-year range, depending upon what the equipment is. But it's specific to green mowers and fairway mowers, you're on the lower end of that versus a 50-horse four-wheel drive tractor. Right now, there's, and I don't know what year it is. I'm probably near the start of the golf course. There's one tractor out there, and it really needs 2. We moved to pull behind rough mowers and that. So a future request will include that tractor, but we've put it out to different companies looking for the best price.
Thank you.
Just for a little background, I think when I was first involved with it, as Denny may very well know, it was not a very good financial venture for the village. I think the $10,000 we might have had in the bank. I know the first year I was here, they made $10,000. Then Jim and the team brought in Renaissance, and Tom Ham and his group got us up to $100,000 of revenue the next year, and has steadily increased. And with the support of this council, right, putting back in the needed funds to operate it to become a premier golf course. As we know, we've bought used equipment up to this point, so it was pretty exciting to see a new purchase. So everything we've done has been piecemeal. What was ultimately immediately needed and we went out and found the best used equipment we could. So we're moving that business enterprise of ours in the right direction. So this is good. It's good that it's self-funding. We still have resources in the bank to continue that. So any further comments or questions by the council?
As of right now, just so the council's aware, the plan for the 22 golf season, the calendar year golf season, right now we're finalizing with Tom Ham, but I anticipate him being present or zoomed in to this live meeting on December 6th. He's got to confirm that with his calendar, but each year he does a quick review and then his business plan for 2022.
Thank you, Jim. With that, we have a motion in front of us to approve the purchase of said equipment. Entertain a motion or the council's desires.
Trustee Wagner, I'll make the motion to approve the purchase and approval authorizing the village manager to purchase the above listed equipment. For $171,500.
Trustee Olson, I second that.
Motion by trustee Wagner, seconded by trustee Olson. We'll do a roll call, please.
Hearing no further comments or questions, roll call vote. Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
President Pro Temp Keller.
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
So we have village manager report.
Yes, well, I did send out a update via email today to our internal and external stakeholders. We're obviously weather-wise and construction season-wise nearing the end of that year. The 10-day forecast looks good. I hope I didn't just jinx us.
Two fingers.
Today, the final gravel was brought in on Prairie Street and Main Street, and it's prepped for asphalt that we anticipate will occur between Wednesday and Saturday. We have authorized the contractor and all subcontractors, if they need to, they're authorized to work on Sundays as well. But this week we anticipate the curb is all in on Main Street, goes to just north of the Washington intersection. The water main is in the ground on Washington between Main and Michigan Avenue. That will go, it passed its pressure test, and then it goes through the protocol of taking the water samples. It's a water main that's not hooked to our system right now, so it has to meet the expectations of that, which we should have those results by the end of the week for sure. And you'll know it's favorable if the road starts being put together on Washington between Maine and Michigan. Specific to Prairie Street, like I said, that base coat of asphalt is anticipated between Wednesday and Saturday, as well as the intersections of Kalamazoo and Maine have color-coated cement that's all the way through. It's not just top-coated, but it's dyed all the way through the cement. Those test pours, the original ones were rejected by the engineers looking at it, and the second test pours passed. So the recipe, I'll call it, has been approved, and the cement subcontractor has told us they'll be here tomorrow. There's some forms. You might have saw us a little bit deeper digging inside the curb lines. That's because it's a base of cement underneath the ground that will uphold the large planting pots that will be on top of the ground. Remember, we won't have like open spaces. Before, there'll be pots above the ground that then are the irrigation system goes right to the pots, and the plants that we elect to put in will be inside those plants. All of those, that electric is underground and in place, as well as the irrigation on Prairie Street. And it was initiated on Main Street today, and we anticipate by the end of the week that those will be in place, as well as the street light bases. The bases for the traffic lights are in. The street lights have been sandblasted, repainted, and are stored locally to be put up as soon as the asphalt and concrete work is done. We have made a decision that we won't plant any trees until next spring to help with the growing season, but we will have more trees downtown than was previously done. I have been asked by some members of the public, obviously now, and we've been telling people once the curb lines were in, it would give a visual impact. Our goal is to make this community very walkable, hangout areas that people want to come and spend a long weekend in Vicksburg, come for the night, enjoy our downtown area in a safe, inviting environment. And I think those visuals of how wide the sidewalks are, the bump out areas now are becoming a reality. On the traffic lanes are designed at 11 feet, which is a downtown traffic lane. The why it is that way, it environmentally slows people down below the maximum speed. I'll highlight the maximum speed of 25 miles an hour. That's why the traffic lanes are designed that way, first and foremost for the safety of people in Vicksburg and to assure the drivers drive 25 or under. The pop out on Main Street, again, it's a one-way, and that is 11 feet as well, and again, environmentally designed to slow that traffic down. The parking downtown, I was asked again, in the downtown area, we have expanded the number of parking spots. There'll be additional spots that are laid out on Washington Avenue between Michigan and Main Street, as well as Main Street and Kalamazoo once the final asphalt is put down on those sections. But the striping, the permanent striping, will be completed next spring. There will be temporary put down to go through the winter, but the permanent striping will be next spring. We'll be also adding outside of downtown some what I guess I'll describe as what I think are cool pedestrian crosswalks and highlighting the downtown. I'll pause there and answer any questions specific to the downtown infrastructure, then I'll talk about the other paving that was we entered those contracts last March.
I don't think we mind having temporary paint as long as we have a permanent road, concrete sidewalk. So let's all, if you're praying people, I'd ask for a prayer to keep warm temperatures in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we both this week looks like the 40s, and even the week following right now on the extended forecast is high 40s and low 50s. So again, if everything falls in place, we're still very, very confident that we'll be holding Christmas in the village downtown with very wide sidewalks. Can't promise if every bench and table will be in place, but the cement sidewalk should be in full asphalt in place as well. Any other questions? Or
if I may, the 11 feet width, is that in total or is that per?
No, 22 total, 11 foot per traffic lane, which is to traffic engineer's specs.
That question had been asked. I just wanted that
Yeah,
clarity on
22
record,
total
so.
feet. And I've certainly had inquiries on availability of truck accesses and that, and I've never have any background in building the street, so I have to trust those that have done it for over 20 years that they engineered this to work. There are no trucks allowed on Main Street, even the delivery trucks, and we've notified the business owners of that, and we've proved it could be done by tearing up the town enough that they couldn't be on Main Street anyway. So we've proved that the deliveries can still happen, but there's no buses or trucks on Main Street on that one way. Again, I don't know if he can hear me with those earphones on, but Alex Lee graciously stepped forward to lead 2022 and with activities downtown throughout the year to really highlight and showcase not only our downtown, but again, that Oswald Park being completed. So I'm really excited. I was up in Grand Rapids at a Michigan Municipal League, and it was energizing to me to hear from other municipal managers about the different developments going on in the village of Vicksburg that are known statewide, as well as this downtown project. And we all know that projects like this, transforming a complete streetscape, rarely happen. So I'm looking forward to it, actually. Yeah, Julie?
I was just gonna say, we had trick-or-treaters last night, and I was so amazed that they braved downtown. I mean, I think they were giving away treats at the Distant Whistle and Jasper's Pizza, and Noni in the second-story apartment, she was dropping candy through a tube down to the street, and the kids were I just was amazed how many people braved it, and a lot of just tons of pedestrians. I was just shocked, kind of. And they were just really fascinated by what's going on. Now that the curbs are in, they can kind of see, and it'll be a lot safer for pedestrians. So it was I was just amazed how many braved all that dirt and mud.
Yeah,
it was cool.
If I can, overwhelmingly, the community has been so patient and supportive and focused on the future of what it's going to be. I don't have a work day that goes by that I don't have contact with multiple people speaking in a positive way. And you know, I don't know how to say it but 31 years I've been in public life. The people who are negative every day. It just plays out that way. But the majority, and I just, in my heart, with the contacts I have, believe it's a super majority of our citizens, and especially our business owners, that are so looking forward to what is coming. It's refreshing, and it's what keeps us motivated. It's also, I just, in my heart, believe the data and research shows for a community structured as the village of Vicksburg, this will help it thrive and survive the next 20 to 50 years. And we have other communities, certainly within our area, that aren't moving in that direction. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Jim. Did you want to talk about the fire hydrant or move on to your?
Well, I was asked about the fire hydrant. We are looking at the engineering of it to not take up one of those parallel parking spots. We have a meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It will be requested. See if we can get that moved to the bump out to the north. And I anticipate when we tell them to move it to the bump out to the north, that's exactly what they'll do. The pavement on Prairie Street to the west village limits will be completed again Wednesday through Saturday, as well as the alley behind the hideaway.
Thank you. Did you want to speak to the 2021 audit? If you have your voice.
I'll get it back.
While you're getting your voice back, the alley behind the businesses on Prairie Street, will that continue to be a one-way, or any changes with that?
No, it'll be a one-way. Very interesting. When we took that asphalt out, it was in places over 8 inches thick of asphalt. So the manner in which the asphalt goes back in will naturally get the water away from the buildings, and some of the buildings had some issues, but it will be a one-way that it's always been in the same direction. Those signs will be updated and brand new, as every single sign downtown will be a brand new sign. And the audit, as I said, we did get the draft financial report, and it's incredibly positive for the village. We're going to go through it Michelle Morgan deserves immense credit. Again, this is the 2 months spent with financial people and auditors, and that task falls squarely on Michelle's shoulders, and she leads that effort and is very good. We should get the complete draft audit report in early to mid-December that we will send and distribute to the council. The public presentation has already been scheduled for the third Monday in January. Reference that. So good news is going to continue on the financial front for Vicksburg.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for that report. We have committee reports now. Trustee Olson with South County Fire Authority.
We had our meeting about a week and a half ago. The big thing is new equipment that's being purchased, and we're not digging into other accesses and this and that. We're using money that's been readily available. It has not been used for the last couple of years. So, and there is some grants in that involved. Part of the grant deal is we're purchasing 9 brand new defibrillators that'll go on our trucks. Those are being purchased through a multi-jurisdictional setup that is, so Portage, Schoolcraft, everybody in the area has been offered this, and they're being purchased with and in conjunction with Stryker Corporation. So in other words, we're really cutting the prices way down, and we're getting mass quantity at a better price. So along with that, skid, it's called a skid. It's a metal skid, and it has a tank on it. We're purchasing a couple of those to go on the back of the fire trucks. We've had some issues with tanks leaking on the trucks. We've had them in for service, in to be welded, to be patched. They could be a fiberglass or a plastic tank. It could be an aluminum tank, whatever. So we're looking at that. Right now, they have a 10-year plan in place, but the committees are looking at a 50-year plan for financing the fire department, looking at the new fire houses. We're probably going to have to end up going to the voters at some point, and we realize that the Fulton station desperately needs to be replaced. Fulton, if you've ever been out there, that building was built in the Civil War. And to tell you how bad it is, when you pull a truck in, you have 2 inches clearance between the bumper and the rear wall, and 2 inches clearance between the front bumper and the garage door. So obviously when you're backing a truck in, you don't want to make a mistake. And of course, we're going to have to take a serious look at Vicksburg. Are we going to build within the village? Are we going to try and get this building? Whatever negotiations are going on. The committee for that was supposed to have met last Wednesday. So I will hear at the next meeting what's going on. I was with Chief McMillan and Dave Bowers last night over at Schoolcraft, and we went over and handed out candy. We chose not to hand it out in Vicksburg because of the mud issue and everything else. It was more of a safety concern, so we chose to go to Schoolcraft. We had a good turnout, but there's a lot of candy left over too. So, but you have to understand that most of our meetings only last about 20 minutes. So we buzz through business quick, and I've seen these meetings last 8, 9, 10 minutes. So if everything is in place, we get them done quick. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Olson. South County Sewer Authority, Trustee Keller.
I actually was not able to attend the meeting last week. However, I do have a report. That committee meets at 9:30 in the morning on the 4th Tuesday of the month, and I'm the only person on that board that has a day job. So they're all elected officials full-time, so that they can block that out. Unfortunately, I had a conflict with my normal job. So, but however, they hired Frank Luff here, which he is now the director of South County Sewer and Water Authority. Cindy Chapman, who was the administrator, is retiring. So Frank had put in to basically take over both positions. 2 meetings ago, I had requested that they form a committee to at least do a search, which they agreed to do. While I was not present at this last meeting, they voted to approve Mr. LaPierre taking over not only the director's position, but couple that with the administrator's position. So he's going to be working with Cindy. I think she's going to retire at the end of December, and so that's where that's going. Barton Lake, for everybody that doesn't know, they've been floating a petition around to try to get sewer around Barton Lake. So from what I have gotten from the minutes, right now they only have 47% approval. They need 51% approval, so I think they're still pushing to get signatures out there in favor of it before they can move forward to even, put together a fiscal plan and all that. There's a mobile home park that's off of Shaver Road that a private individual owns, that he has gotten with the sewer authority to, he wants to hook up for sewer for that facility out there, so that's actually gonna then transverse up through Portage. Because obviously Schoolcraft doesn't have sewer, so, it's kind of a non-issue with them. But the 131, they're still talking about the corridor down there, and that hasn't gone anywhere as of now. And as everybody knows as well, off of Sprinkle Road, there's a new development going in over there. So that seems to be, right now, it looks like a big lake, but they're in the process of getting that around. So that is a report from that group.
I just had a question. When they're trying to figure out about sewage around the Barton Lake area, do you guys have like a general cost that might bring people on board if they kind of knew what they were getting into, like a general estimate?
Well, they employ
for people?
Whiteman and Associates that actually details out what the cost of the system's going to be. So when you say you guys, you mean the, yeah, I mean they have anticipated what it would be for them, but that also doesn't include, because obviously they would have to hook up to our system to go through. So that's a separate issue. So, but they've done a pro forma, Whiteman Associates, that at least they have an idea when they're talking to the residents out there approximately what it's going to run. So they're they have an idea.
That helps people, if they have to eat an elephant, they want to know how big it is.
How big it bites?
Yeah, and how long they have to eat it, so it helps. Yeah, okay.
Trustee Reister, the tree committee.
Yes, we met last Wednesday and, oh, sorry. We met last Wednesday, and the Saturday before, we started our walk around the village, and we're looking at areas that have trees that are still in really good shape, and then also areas that we could see was a possibility for putting new trees in. Certainly would work with the people who own the homes, because we don't want to put a tree in that somebody really doesn't want. So we're still in the planning stages at this point, trying to mark areas that I made some big boards that we have. We've divided the village into 4 different sections, and so that we can mark on there where we need the trees and so forth. We're looking into, we have a person on the tree committee who has some forestry background, and so he's been pretty good in trying to tell us trees that would be good for the area, trees that would not create a big problem for the area. We have to be watching also, if we have overhead wires, then we're looking at using some ornamental trees and so forth, so that we don't get them just annihilated by the electric company. So that's what we're doing right now.
Thank you, Gail. We know this is a long-term project, and we don't expect, results tomorrow, so.
Well, you're not going to get them tomorrow.
Well, then. Thank you very much. Right.
Next teacher.
Trustee Olson on cats, was there any recent?
Yes, if you love the road projects that are going on right now with 94 and every major road except for Lover's Lane, Get ready, because we got 60 major road projects coming up next year in Kalamazoo County. So they are winding up, we're basically waiting to see what Washington's gonna do money-wise. And they pretty much think that we're gonna get more money. So obviously more money means more projects. Kilgore Road should be back open up by Portage. So that's a big plus right there. They've been detouring traffic around, and to try to get from Portage to Sprinkle, it's been bad. The reason I bring these up, a lot of us have to travel the corridors all the time, and I run everything between Marshall and St. Joe and Kalamazoo to Martin to Allegan and everything. I have to travel these roads every day, so, and I figure a lot of you who have business in Kalamazoo and Portage, you want to know that too. Bike Kalamazoo raised a lot of money. I know that Alex, there was a check there, and they are doing grants for bike lights. So, and I believe that Vicksburg, there was a $2,000 deal there. The one thing that Bike Kalamazoo is looking for is buildings to put murals on, to promote biking, bike safety, and everything else. And Jackie, I'm sorry, I suggested you in the mill. And I informed them that we just recently did a building up here at our park up on Sprinkle. So, if he has not contacted you yet, he may. But they were really pushing the bike safety, the bike usage, and that more and more. And my big question is, okay, why isn't Portage jumping on the bandwagon and completing the trail? I recently learned there's a property issue, just like what we had when we extended the trail up. So they're going through that now. They're hoping to do something maybe next year. So, but that's about it. Just every community's got some kind of project going on, sewer, bridges, something. But I can tell you that they all look at Vicksburg and go, how can you guys do it? Well, luck, grants, money, Jim, you name it. It kind of all balls in together, so.
And
Thank
the
you.
community.
Community, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Thank you.
Well, this takes us to trustees' time, and I'll start with you're not going to get it, Mrs. Reister.
Well, I was really stunned on Sunday night too with the trick-or-treaters. I mean, this is the first time that I have had cars actually parked all the way along Michigan. I mean, they were just parked, and on South Street too. It was pretty amazing, and it was like groups of kids. So I think that, through this whole pandemic, people are just getting so tired of not doing something. So I think they took advantage of going out and trick-or-treating, and that was kind of neat. I think that all of the work that's been done in the village, like Bobby's work and Jim's work and so forth, I think we're very, very fortunate to have people in this community who are willing to work and to get things done. So I just appreciate all of the hard work. Michelle, too, of working with the audit and so forth. We just have people in this community who are willing to do the work, and especially, like, I'm big in getting volunteers, and it's just always amazing to me how easy it is to get volunteers in this community. It's just incredible. So thank you so much, everybody who has worked hard.
Trustee Holmes?
Just a quick comment regarding the infrastructure, the construction we see downtown. It's, for the last 2 or 3 years, we've been talking with the community and getting everyone ready. Hey, it's coming, a big thing's coming. Well, it's here. And we're about to complete it, and that should be celebrated. Change is tough. I hate change. I have sneakers older than my kids. And I'm with a lot of people. It's very, very difficult, but by the same token, change is inevitable. The world's changing around us. We either are a victim of change or we're an advocate of change, is how I look at the world. What we see when we walk through downtown is what you see in destination communities. Vicksburg will be a destination community. We're going to have people who don't even know we exist today that are coming here. We have that fortunate ability, and go talk to the Marshalls, the Olivettes, the Mendons of the world. I mean, all the good people, but they're challenged to be able to say that. We're not. And so I would just suggest we all just realize, you know what, and it's going to take time, but what's happening is well thought out. It makes sense. It's going to help us have that controlled growth that we want here in the community, to be this, to keep our sense of who we are, our identity, but by the same time, create opportunities for our kids, our grandkids, for next generations, because maybe you don't like social areas. Maybe you think it's the stupidest thing in the world. Why the hell do we have a 20-foot, 30-foot wide sidewalk? But you know what? Go talk to kids younger than 30, and you know what? That's exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for places to go, to socialize, to be with their friends. And I think, from my perspective, when I look at downtown, I couldn't be happier, because I've seen those empty storefronts. I also shopped there in the 70s and 80s when you had, you know, a retail corridor, right? Remember that? Yeah. Yep, I remember I got my Happy Days Fonzie t-shirt from the Mercantile store downtown. But anyways, good things to come. I would just say, all of us, just, you know, take a deep breath. Change is inevitable, and we're on the right path.
Trustee Wagner.
How do I follow that? Trick-or-treating last night in the Centennial neighborhood was fantastic. My father-in-law actually visited, and he'd never been in the neighborhood for the holiday, and saw hundreds of times more trick-or-treaters than he'd ever seen in his life, where they've been for their entire lives. So it was a totally different experience, and the amount of feedback we got from the parents, from the kids, how happy everyone was just to walk up the driveway to get a piece of candy or a toy for those that might have had allergies or other restrictions, and just how warm everyone was on such a cold, windy day. It was just a wonderful thing to see. And I have to publicly recognize and apologize to my lovely wife, Dana. She gives me so much love and support on a regular basis. I need to do more for her on Halloween. I had a very low effort costume for the Yellow Brick Road, and she was a delightfully well done Wicked Witch. The contrast was striking, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, honey, I got more compliments than you did. That was not my intention. So I wanted to apologize officially for that. But it was such a fun event that just seeing everybody out there smiling, laughing, having a good time, and all the adults hanging out with each other to bring the kids around, it was really fun to see. So I'm looking forward to more of those in the future. That's all.
Thank you. Trustee Olson.
Once again, yeah, Halloween was great. I didn't do it in Vicksburg this year. I went over and helped South County Fire Authority do theirs. But the thing I liked the most, other than the kids dressed up, was the people the new people from Schoolcraft in Vicksburg who were over there, and saying how much they love the area, they really like it, they think the schools are great, everything. So that made me happy to hear that. And the other thing was Jackie, the mill, they posted pictures of Mackenzie's Bakery on there, the update on that. Yeah. I was glad to read that. I think that's going to make a lot of people happy. Yeah. So, yeah, I know it's going to be a lot of hard work, but that's what what happens when you foresee a vision. For anybody else, have a little patience. Yeah, the roads are muddy and they got to be paved and everything else, and not everything comes fast, but yeah, you got to have patience. We are your elected officials. You elected us to represent you. We can't get, I don't know, 3,000 plus people in this building, so that's why the 7 of us are here. And you have to believe in what we're doing. You have to believe that what we're doing is right for you. And believe me, I fought with previous village councils over the years, even before I started coming to council meetings. So I trust these people, I support these people, and what we're doing is, you may not see it today, but down the line you're going to see it, and it's going to be good. So thank you, sir.
Trustee Merrill. Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that we're having Christmas in the Village, December 11th. And so hopefully there'll be posters put up, or it'll be in the paper. So, So elaborate, anyway.
Yeah.
What?
Sandwich board.
Our village manager would like to speak.
Yeah, I kind of fumbled in my presentation or manager's report, but all the talk on the shops reminded me that this Friday, we have some pretty important businesses that are staying open late, both wrapped in gratitude, Silo Chic and some others downtown for their traditional start of the holiday shopping season, Friday night from 6 to 9, and then again Saturday 10 to 4. And certainly in front of their shops, we're going to ensure that they won't be walking through dirt. We'll have some improved services if the sidewalks aren't in front of Wrapped in Gratitude yet. But I thought it was worth mentioning when people were talking about businesses that those local business owners have committed to doing that again on Friday night especially. And if we can support them, it'd be nice.
Thank you, Jim. President Pro Tem Keller.
I'd like to thank staff and especially Mr. Durkee for all your hard work on the recodification. Like I said, we started this back in 2015, I think, so I appreciate it finally coming to the finish line. Appreciate staff and everything you've done in regards to the action item we voted on earlier today. I know that citizens, and I was one that when I'd come to council meetings and they go into closed session, I'd immediately think, what are they doing in there? What are they doing? But it's by Michigan civil law that on sensitive issues that cannot be made public, that's a venue or a vehicle for the council to at least be able to have that opportunity to be informed on something that's potentially sensitive. And that's regardless of whether it's human resources or anything else. So just so everybody understands, it's not that anybody's trying to pull anything on anybody. It's just it's a vehicle that the state of Michigan allows us to do. So I would like to say that trick-or-treating on the east side of town was as robust. Unfortunately, because the roads are still not quite up to par, it was not as well attended as it usually is. But there were a lot of kids that were out and about, so as the only representative from the east side, I just want everybody to know that, hopefully next year things will be more back to normal on our side of town. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wagner.
Wanted to, before I forgot, go over Christmas Card Lane. So that committee this year for Christmas, since we brought up Christmas in the Village, has already made contact with almost 100, both businesses and individuals, and signed on almost 2/3 of those for Christmas cards this year, almost effectively already doubling the participation from last year. So we're getting really excited to put that together for everybody.
That's great. Yeah,
Oh, and slots still available, so if anyone else still needs one, we'll take more.
thank you for that. I did talk to a couple that was doing one for their private, which I was surprised, but that was pretty cool. And it's not only businesses, but if families want to do dedications to others, So we'll wrap this up. I know it's been a long meeting tonight. I think, I see Mr. Hunt, Mr. Bill Hunt, Mrs. Hunt in the audience tonight. And I just want to take another moment to thank you for your years of service to this community, all right? Thank you. And welcome your newest replacement, Tanya DeLong. Thank you, Tanya, for taking the interest, and we look forward to what you can bring to we know what you're going to bring, but we look forward to your excitement in the planning in the DDA, so thank you. Somebody else mentioned it tonight, Mackenzie Bakery downtown. That's the vision I think we all have for the downtown. That's just going to draw all these people as we're discussing, right? That's the type of businesses that we want to flourish in the community, and hopefully we're making the infrastructure and the outside spaces something that's going to draw that type of entrepreneurs and investments in the village. So thank you for that. Bobby and Michelle, man, you guys, yeoman's work. Congratulations. We look forward to the future information on the audit. And Bobby, what you've done with that recodification project has been phenomenal. So thank you. I want to thank this team, for their professionalism, and this gentleman next to me that nudges me and tells me a voice call, roll call. Thank you, I thank you all, you know, we make this team and we make this community and help, you know, the direction that we're going on. And just to follow up on that, we're going into our second year of committees, so I'm gonna reevaluate the community assignments. I think it's good for all of us to be cross-trained, you know, get a little flavor for everybody else's roles, and so we're gonna look at that again, just to give you a flavor for the different roles that we all serve. So look forward to that in the future. Other than that, if no other comments or thoughts, entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Wagner.
Support.
All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.